Hey, how are you doing, everybody? Here today to do a kind of a quick video. It's my opportunity here to test out my new computer that I built to do my videos on. Also, the new technology, the HD cam. Anyways, this video is kind of an important video for me. It's really my main 5 reasons why I have issues with the Avery investigation. I mean, I understand some people out there don't have an issue with it really, or at least they feel that the anomalies are explainable or can be explained away in their opinion. So I don't really find fault with those people that are I call the pro guilty folks. I understand that they have their way of seeing things, and I have mine. So, but putting that aside, I kind of wanted to go briefly over the kind of the path that I took through the MAM path that I took, when I got into this. I started out, I watched the documentary in January of 2016, about the middle of January, I don't know, 13th, 14th. Watched it in 2 or 3 days, and watched it and looked a little bit of stuff online, saw that there was evidence left out, or there were claims that evidence was left out and everything, and so I kind of just didn't do much about it. I didn't, I just kind of went to work the next day. But as I found out for the next couple of days, that it was always in the back of my mind. I was always thinking about it. It just seemed so strange. And I wanted to find out about this so-called evidence that was so-called left out of it. And I figured, okay, well, because I'm a Law and Order kind of guy, I kind of looked at it and went, well, maybe Avery did do this. I mean, it's hard to believe a jury would convict a guy if they didn't believe he did it. And, because being a Law and Order type of person, I kind of naturally tend to side with law enforcement and prosecution and stuff like that. So so that's basically where I was at after the original, after watching the documentary. But however, I was totally convinced that Brendan hadn't done a thing. I was completely convinced. What I saw happen with Brendan was just heartbreaking and sad, and it was part of really the main reason that pulled me back in. It's what pulled me in, really, when it came to MAM, is that I ended up jumping into these Facebook groups, and I ended up looking at evidence and reading the documents and reading everything I could get my hands on, and watching other people and videos that they made, and aspects of evidence that everybody was testing and looking at and in all that digging and scrutinizing is when I saw what I see as the proof of the corruption and the improper procedures and tactics used by the investigators constantly, over and over again, all throughout queso, throughout, just when you look at it all, it's all just, there's so much there that's fishy, and we'll get into that, my 5 reasons, obviously. But yeah, and that's the one thing that sets me off. That's the one thing that really, really pisses me off, is people in the position that those people are in, those officers and everybody. Ken Kratz, Tom Fassbender from the DOJ, all of them. Poggle Wiegert from Calumet. For everybody to have just gone along with this and thought nothing was wrong with it at all, no. Doesn't work for me, and it won't. And it's because of the basically the blatant intent to just ignore it and not address it just convinces me even further that I'm right. So that's how I feel about that. Yeah. I've had actually some pro guilty folks on my videos recently that come on there, and some of them are okay, but you get a couple of them that are kind of nasty, and they say things like, you're an Avery lover, oh Avery lover, blah 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 blah, and they say derogatory things or whatever, which I don't care. They're welcome to do that if they like, but I just wanted to say one thing. Let me be absolutely clear. I am not here making these videos because I'm a fan of the Averys. I am here because I am a fan of criminal justice and watching it and seeing it work properly. That's why I'm here. The name could have been Jones, could have been Garcia, could have been Davis. But it just so happens that this case, the person that got railroaded was named Avery. And that's the way it goes. So, just so any of those people know, it's not about being a fan of the Averys, it's about being a fan of criminal justice and the way it's supposed to work. So, having said that, I'll get into my number 5 reason. Number 5 reason why this investigation is a complete farce. Colburn calling in the RAV4 2 days before it was found. No. I'm sorry, this will forever be a problem. And I put this at number 5 because some people just want to explain this away and think, no, he just got it from somebody else. Well, no. Because he claimed he got it from Wiegert. He thinks, well, Investigator Wiegert must have given it to me when he called me and told me to go check out Avery or whatever, right? Well, Wiegert testified on the stand he had no recollection of that, of ever giving Colburn that information. So, where did Colburn get it? Well, anyways. So, it doesn't work for me, but anyways, we'll move on to that. When Colburn is on the stand and Dean Strang is questioning him about the call into dispatch when he's calling in the plates on November 3rd. And when Dean Strang is basically asking him, so how did you, so you didn't call, you weren't looking at these plates? And Colburn saying, no, I wasn't looking at these plates. And you see Dean Strang is essentially challenging Colburn, and you see Colburn do this bit. You see him do one of these, and he's like, like he's going to jump out of that witness stand or something and go for Strang's throat. And I was just like, I remember watching it, Making a Murder, and I was just like, yeah, jump out of there, do it, betray yourself, but obviously he didn't, but yeah, you could see he had some violent rage building up towards Dean Strang there. All the more reason why it bothers me, because why is he getting mad? If he didn't do anything wrong, he has no reason to get mad, but he just knows, he realizes that calling in that plate like that, there's no explanation for it. And obviously he was on the stand looking like an idiot and he didn't like it. So that's the way I see that one. Anyways, moving on to reason 4, which is still involving Colburn a bit, is the cabinet and the key. It just doesn't work for me after so many searches in that room, so many searches in that bedroom, so many searches of the cabinet. The cabinet was searched at least twice. I bet you it was searched probably 5 times, but at least twice that I can show in pictures that, or that I've seen in pictures and can show in pictures. In fact, I'll go ahead and put some pictures of the cabinet up after this to show you. But the cabinet, I mean, there's no way that this key could have been hidden in the cabinet, number one. There's nowhere that it could have been stuffed in and wedged in or whatever, where the key would have been completely invisible, where you wouldn't have been able to see it. Even with the back peeling off the back of the cabinet, there's nowhere you could have put it, because the key is thicker than the pieces of wood that make up the shelving of the shelves of the cabinet itself. So there was no real place for this key to hide, except for maybe on the back panel on the side, where the back panel was peeling away from the left side of the cabinet. It could have maybe been wedged in there, possibly, but even then it would have been visible. It either would have been visible when you looked inside and looked at that back corner, or it would have been visible from the outside looking at it, from the side, looking at it, like looking along the wall at it and seeing where the back of it was peeling away. You would have seen it wedged in there. There's no way you could have possibly missed this key when they emptied out this cabinet 2-3 times that they emptied it out. There's no way you would have been able to miss this key in there. And the fact that Colburn says he emptied it all out, put everything back in, and then just decided to give it a little shake, and all of a sudden it came tumbling out through that little open crack in that one corner where the cabinet was peeling away, it just doesn't work, because where does the key come from then? Where was it hiding? If he had just pulled everything out of it and put everything back, where was it at? How could it have possibly been hiding in there where he wouldn't have seen it when he pulled everything out? So the whole cabinet thing has never worked for me. It's always been a real BS explanation. Okay, and these are pictures courtesy of Carrie Mindel. You can see that in that first picture there was keys on the shelf. In this next picture, you're going to see that you can see everything's in a slightly different arrangement with no keys sitting there. And then this is the final one. You can see that the stuff on the shelves is in another configuration, obviously with the key there on the ground. Moving on to reason 3. Where the hell is all of the blood? There is no freaking blood. Except a little bit of Teresa's blood in the back of the RAV4. That's it. This whole scene of a rape and murder and shooting and stabbing and all this stuff, and there's not a trace of Teresa anywhere. Nowhere. And yeah, okay, fine. Steven can clean up a crime scene better than a forensic, scientist, right? You kidding me? Anyways, not a trace. None. Zero. And if you've been following my videos up to this point, you know that Brad Schimel recently tried to suggest that the reason why there was none of Teresa's DNA or blood anywhere in the house or whatever is because it was all kept on the bedding, and then the bedding was burned. As if the blood wouldn't seep through the sheet, seep into the mattress, because they didn't burn the mattress. It's still there. So the fact that they can offer explanations like that, like, honestly, like they think it's a good explanation, that just tells you there's an issue. It just doesn't ring true. It doesn't sound right. And the fact that they keep trying to bolster it instead of telling the truth so that all this crud will make sense, instead they keep trying to bolster their lies. It's obvious. It's extremely obvious. At least it is to me anyway. So then we move on to, the blood in the blood inside of the RAV4. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. The blood inside of the RAV4 is extremely strange to me, because it seems that Steven's blood was in like these, 5 different places, right? Or 6 different places. But it seemed like kind of like large amounts had poured out of him in those little specific areas, right? So it's like, well, how does that happen? If he's leaving that much blood in these 6 places over here, how is there no blood around the steering wheel? Only over by the ignition, that tiny, tiny little amount? Over by the ignition when there's, kind of like small puddles being left over on the passenger seat. So it's like, how does this all work? How does that work? Because, how do you leave that much blood in 6 specific spots but pretty much nowhere else? Especially where you were driving. And there's no fingerprints. None of Steven's, none of anybody's. There's 0 fingerprints on the steering wheel. None. Not of anybody. That's odd. That's really odd. So that's just part of my issue with the blood in the RAV4 too. It just doesn't work because it doesn't make sense the way it lies. The way it lies is kind of like, that doesn't make sense just the way you found it. How does anybody bleed in that way to leave 6 kind of small puddles almost, and then just like a little streak over by the ignition and nothing else around the ignition when you're leaving all this blood everywhere else in the cab. It's just like, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't work. So, then we move on to the reason number 2. Yeah. Brendan Dassey's ridiculous coerced confession. All I can say is Brendan, the whole time I've watched him, I've listened to him. The whole time, whenever he's being asked questions by police officers, he is guessing. He may be phrasing his guesses in the form of a statement, but the way that he's saying them, he's saying them with a lack of confidence, and he's saying them with an inflection of being unsure of himself, to where the statements are really questions. He's actually wondering if they're going to accept what he's saying. And it's obvious in the audio of the November 6th interview, where he is told he needs to stop worrying about going to jail because that ain't going to happen, which is a promise. If you've been watching my videos about Brennan's appeal, that kind of a promise is what nullifies a confession. And some people are making the argument that, oh, well, that happened on November 6th when he confessed on March 1st. Well, I make the argument of, you think he didn't remember that? You think he wasn't thinking about that on March 1st? How he was being harassed one day after the RAV4 was found on the Avery salvage property when he was out in Marinette or Crivets. Crivets. At the cabin or whatever, when they went to go get soda and gets pulled over by a Marinette officer. Yeah. I mean, you think he wasn't thinking about that? Because he was. I'm sure he was. It's pretty obvious that he was. He was scared. He didn't know. I mean, he sounds exactly the same in his interviews with Fassbender and Wiegert that he sounded in his interview with O'Neill, the Marinette officer in Crivets. He's just guessing. The ideas are being planted. The officers periodically go into little monologues where they're trying to set up a scenario because they want to set him up to say the right things. It's just a mess with Brendan. So Brendan is reason number 2 why this investigation was just a complete farce. And now we're going to move on to reason number 1. Reason number 1. By the way, I have videos already about most of these subjects. Some of you may already know that and may have already watched them. Anybody who this is going to be your first time being introduced to me, I will post videos that I've already done on these topics so that you can go and check out if you want. And I'll post them down in the info below, and I'll label them for reason 5, check out this video, or reason 4, check out this video. So just so you guys know. So this is reason 1, the bones. The damn bones, the cremains. There is nothing but shady doings around these things. It's outrageous, and I will post my bone video below in the info, so if you want to go check it out, take a look. But the thing is that I never believed they found those bones in Stephen Avery's burn pit. No way. I do not believe that they started in Stephen Avery's burn pit, and there's evidence of that at trial. The anthropologist that eventually testified for the prosecution even said she could not deny the fact that the bones had been moved. So, bones had been moved. So what in God's name would Avery, if he was moving the bones from somewhere else, why would he move them to his fire pit? Yeah, that's just one part. Anyways, then you look at the suspicious manner in which the bones were found. Okay? You got your lead forensic tech, your lead crime scene tech, Ertl, who is working with his team over at Calumet, and they're sifting burn barrels. They sift through burn barrel 4. Burn barrel 4 is clear, and it's set aside. Then they get a call around noon that day. They're working on burn barrel 2. They don't finish it, but they're working on it. Okay? So at that point, they get the call. They need to go out to Avery Salvage. They're needed there right away, pronto. It's important. It's an emergency. Okay, all right. So they go ahead and leave, the barrels there or whatever. Well, somebody says, put burn barrel 4 on a trailer and take it out to Avery Salvage because it had already been sifted. So somebody said, put burn barrel 4 on a trailer and let's get it back to Avery Salvage. Now, why would you do that? Why would you send that burn barrel back to Avery Salvage? What would be the point of it? If you were going to send the burn barrels back, why wouldn't you just wait to have them all together and just send them all back in one trip, right? I don't know. Anyways, the one burn barrel going back is a problem for me and always has been, because it goes there for one night and then Ken Kratz actually calls for the burn barrel to be brought back to Calumet County to go into Calumet County's long-term storage. Do you know what happened that day? Because it went there on the 7th. The burn barrel was called back on the 8th. Well, the 8th is the day the bones were found. So this burn barrel, number 4, went from Calumet County on the 7th to Avery Salvage, sat there that night, and the next day around 2 o'clock, the bones were being found in Stephen's fire pit. After somebody had finally been able to get Bear, Stephen's dog, and take Bear somewhere, somebody was finally able to deal with this vicious, ravenous dog that was holding up the investigation. And suddenly these bones are appearing in Stephen's fire pit. Now, the interesting thing is that Ertl and his team were working on Burn Barrel 2 when they were called away to go dig up a rotten stump that somebody believed was a burial site, but it was literally a decaying stump. Ertl comments about how obvious it was that that's what it was when he got there, but he had to dig the whole thing up anyway. Took up the rest of his day. He wasn't able to do anything else really that day until later on, like around 6 o'clock, and him and his team worked over at Calumet for an additional hour and finished up Burn Barrel 2 and whatever. But that whole time, Burn Barrel 2 was there. And guess where the bone fragments were eventually found? In which burn barrel? Burn Barrel 2. So there's some suspicious stuff around the bones. So that's just one thing. And then the next thing is the fact that, number one, when they did find these bones, they did not call over crime scene tech Ertl to collect them forensically. They did not call an anthropologist. They didn't even call their coroner. In fact, not only did they not call the coroner, when the coroner found out about it herself, she went down to the salvage yard and she was barred. Peterson and 2 other high-ranking officials barred her from the salvage yard and would not allow her to get anywhere near it. So why such a deliberate attempt to keep away anybody that could have offered a professional, educated opinion about the bones? Could have collected them in a forensic way and saw how they lie, and there could have been a lot more information that could have been gleaned from the bones that would have, if it went the way the prosecution says it went, then it would have just reaffirmed their series of events. But I think that they knew that the bones were lying in a disheveled way because they had been dumped there, and they didn't want any experts or anybody with an educated eye to be able to look at them and see them, and because there would have been somebody that could testify and basically contradict their narrative. So that's my feeling about that. So those are my 5 reasons. Those 5 things cannot be sufficiently explained. They're huge problems, huge problems, and because of them, I believe that there is a root of corruption there in Manitowoc, possibly in that area of Wisconsin, and it's sad, because now I'm going to go into my honorable mentions, which is the 36 million reasons that the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department had to frame Stephen, and number 2, the dirty dealings that this sheriff's office has committed in the past. And when I say that, I'm talking about Ricky Hochstetler. He was absolutely failed. It's sad and sickening to think of how badly he was failed by Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, by Detective Mike Bushman and by Detective James Link. They basically didn't even investigate the hit and run that killed him. They lied to his mother, and basically said that they had called DCI to find out if DCI could help with the investigation and helping in like reconstructing the hit and run and stuff. He lied to the mother and said he had. She called DCI herself and found out that DCI had never been contacted whatsoever about the case. So when you add all these things together and the dirty dealings of this department and the horrific things that they seem to be so capable of, you can't honestly just say, oh yeah, Avery's guilty. No, it's not that simple at this point. They've done too many things, and it's right there in the documents. You guys can go watch my videos. It's right there. I show the documents in my videos. This video, I'm just sitting back talking to you about my thoughts, but I will be posting links to videos below in the info, and all those videos will have documents where you'll be able to see it right there, from the CASO report, from the trial transcripts, from the newspaper articles, whatever it was. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on the whole thing, people. I just wanted to get that out there and talk about my 5 main reasons why this all stinks and is fishy to me. Mainly, if nothing else, for my subscribers. I know some of my subscribers, obviously, they're obviously on the fence. And I can understand that because I spent the first 4 months, up until probably May or June, in the innocent or guilty groups because I was on the fence. I was researching, I was looking, I was searching deeper. I was looking for more meaning in it, or looking for more info to see what the meaning was behind certain things. And like I said, after a lot of digging, I just basically came to the point of everything I dug into to see where possibly the investigation had gotten done right. It almost always completely ended up being a shamble. So that fact alone got me to the point where I was just like, no, there's enough here to seriously suspect wrongdoing on the part of the sheriff's department, and possibly more. Like I said, if Peterson and 2 high-ranking public officials barred the coroner from Avery salvage yard, that tells you that it may be going beyond the sheriff's department. So that's about it for that, people. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.